Hello, data enthusiast. Welcome once again to my YouTube channel. Today we'll be looking at statistical functions in Numerical Python. And we'll also be looking at how we can apply these functions to real-world data. So now let's look at statistical operation using NumPy. Okay, so we have our array as usual. So let's look at mean. If you want to use mean, you want to find the mean of an array or of a table, or of the column of a table, you use the word mean. The same thing applies to median. If you want to find the minimum number in a column, you can use mean. If you want to find the maximum number, you use max. If you want to calculate standard deviation, you use STD. So let's run the code to see our results. So here we have the original array. Now the mean of this array is 5.3. The median is 3.5, and the minimum is 0.5. You can see it. Obviously 0.5 is the smallest number, while 17.1 is the maximum, and then the standard deviation. Okay, so let's practicalize all we've learned so far from the NumPy library using a sample data set. This is an agricultural data set related to crops and disease progression. So we want to apply statistical functions to the data set. So this is the code we want to use to explore the data. And we can see we are importing our library, pandas, which will put our data in a table format, and NumPy, which will be used to manipulate the data. Then we have the display option to display the maximum number of rows and columns. Then this is our data set here. Then we want to display the number of columns. Now we divided the data set into two: dependent variables and independent variables. So the dependent variables are the ones that contain numbers, while the independent variables, most of them, they are a mixture of numbers and letters. So when you want to perform statistical operation with NumPy, you must be dealing with the columns that have only numbers. NumPy is numerical Python, so it deals with only number, not a mixture. So that's why I separated the data set. So this is the code that will be running. We'll find the median, minimum, maximum, standard deviation. So now let's open our kernel so that we can run our code. So we go to our home page, we open a new Python IP kernel. But I've already opened the kernel, so we won't be using this new kernel that will be opened. So we'll use the one I've already opened. But I just wanted to see how it is. So this is a new kernel. Then from here we can start typing our code. Import pandas. So we can run our code. So you can see it's functioning. So now I have the one I've already opened to save time. So here it is. So I took the code in batches. So first and foremost, I imported pandas and NumPy and in this cell, and I run it. So it's working. So I copied and pasted the display option and I run it. Then this is the data set here. So I'll be running it so you can have a look at the number of columns that we have in the data set. So let me run it. So these are all the columns in the data set. So this is the data set. We divided the columns. So for the dependent variables and the independent variables, so we can see the different headers for the table. So we print the head of the data set, that is for the dependent variable columns. So we'll print the head to just have a sneak peek into the data set to see what the data set contains, how it looks like. So let's run it. So we can see these are the columns in the data set for the dependent variables, and we can see they are all numbers. So now we want to start carrying out the statistic operation on the data set. So we use our for loop to loop through the different columns. So that's what the for loop is doing. So it's going to pick the column name and put it in the data frame here, df, which is data frame, put the column name. So we're trying to tell the code, oh, this specific column, put it in the data frame and locate that column. So that column, you put it in ARR, which is the variable name. So that ARR, which will be containing the details, all the information of that particular column. Now run np.mean on that column. So find the mean of the values of that column. So once it's done, it will go again, pick the next column name, do the same thing, pick the next column name. So let's run the code so you can see how the result comes out. So you can see mean for, you can see it from the original code, mean for I, which is this column name, that is the I, which is the column name, is, this is the value, 168.650669 and so on. So in this situation now, you can also apply the round function so that it can round up your results. So to round up the result, all you need to do is to use the round function in NumPy. So I put the result of the mean, so we're dealing with mean for now. I put the result of the mean in the variable called result. So that variable result, I put it into the function round, and I'm saying I want 2 decimal places. So let's rerun this mean to see the result. So you can see now the result is in 2 decimal places compared to the way it was before. Okay, so let's try another statistical function. This is median. The same thing applies here, and I use the round function on it. So let's run this code to see the median of the result. So you can see the median is 165, while the mean is 168. Then another statistical function, mean, the minimum number. Let's run this to see the results. So we can see the minimum for this is 90. Now let's also try one last function, which is the standard deviation. So the standard deviation for that result is 50. So standard deviation for this column of data is 50, and so on and so forth. So this is a practical way to use your NumPy on real life data, because this is a real life data, crop data. So, and we can see that it's giving us the result we expect.